Public service announcements, also known as public informational films. They're set out to inform the public about many differing things, usually in regards to safety concerns. However, sometimes these PSAs converge into the line of utterly disturbing, whether it's for its shocking material, graphic nature, or just heavy message. And today, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone watching, we will be looking at the most disturbing PSAs. Before we fully jump in, if you're new here, welcome, and if you're returning, it's good to see you again. Before we fully jump in, if you couldn't tell by the intro, these topics are going to be heavy, and with that being said, there's going to be content warning on the screen like this. Alright, let's get into it. Happy Bear, WSPA.
Captivity, torture, or dance until death. The WSPA World Society for the Protection of Animals helps abused animals. Please help. WSPA-DE.
If you're a returning member on this channel, you know that anything revolving a bear and PSAs are probably not a good sign.
Hello, kids!
Happy Bear is a 2003 German PSA, part of a campaign for the World Society for the Protection of Animals, now known as the World Animal Protection. The PSA that's part of the Liberty Campaign sets out to spread awareness of where animal cruelty may lie. In the PSA Happy Bear, it focuses on the mistreatment of animals that people may not think about, like circus animals. I personally always wanted to go to the circus when I was younger, because there was always a train that went by near my neighborhood with a circus promotion on it. And I kept begging my mother, and then one day she finally was like, "Hey, you wanna know what they do to the circus animals?" And I was like, "What?" And then she told me, and I was like, "Oh." And this PSA supports what my mom was saying back then. They beat the shit out of these animals. And not just that, they alter these animals by mutilating them, simply for human entertainment. Because bears can't have ears. What kind of bear have you seen have ears? This PSA received quite a bit of backlash. Now, specifically with many people's complaints when it comes to PSAs, there's always going to be people who are like, "That's too graphic for me," and that's perfectly fine. But what I've seen as the group consensus for the biggest problem about these graphic PSAs, and I'm talking about the PSAs that actually have a good message behind it, not just being like, "Here's blood and guts. Don't do drugs." A lot of people want some sort of trigger warning, and again, I think that's perfectly fine. Granted, it takes away from the shocking part of PSAs. Now, with all that being said, I think the shocking part of Happy Bear, where it just shows animal cruelty, and by that I mean the images of these bears are just completely bloody and brutalized. As shown with the little wooden block of the bear, the ears get cut off, and we get shown that on a real bear. Hell, there's one bear just tied up like he's getting ready for like CIA torture, just so it can entertain people in a tent full of clowns. Now, I couldn't find too much context about this PSA. Like, its availability to view is pretty scarce. I did see reports that it went on air in Germany around the time of its release in 2003, although I can't find which time slots. Usually PSAs run much later, like Adult Swim time. The PSA was created by, and forgive my Americanness, Publicis Frankfurt. And I think this PSA does a good job incorporating the gore and shocking material with its message. Like mentioned, it points a light at something people may not think about, but it also doesn't exaggerate or sugarcoat anything, and it just gives you the proof of what they're saying. If you disagree and think that the PSA was graphic for no reason, and it could have told its message without showing the animal cruelty, then let me know down below. Warehouse accident. Prevent it. WSIB.
Take care of that skid! Yeah! Oh, 911! We got an accident here!
This was no accident. The company knows it's against code to store that much weight up there. I knew I should have been focused on what I was doing. And it's obvious the supervisor didn't report that broken shelf.
This 2007 Workplace Safety PSA was released under the campaign called Prevent It, a returning campaign on this channel. I think almost every other PSA video I've done where we're talking about a multitude of PSAs, I've mentioned Prevent It. And for good reason, because every single time it shows some sort of poor employee getting fucked up.
And the company should have checked those tanks
As the Prevent It series, created by Workplace Safety and Insurance Board, regulated in Ontario, Canada, does not skip on their gore in their PSAs, nor do they ever cushion the blow. Now, the gore and shocking material is a big reason these PSAs are known. I'm pretty sure a lot of people just remember it because it was traumatizing to them because they were just watching some sort of cartoon and then all of a sudden some dude just gets impaled by like 50 iron rods. But remember, it was no accident. But also, I, as well as many other people, think that the message behind all the preventive PSAs are pretty damn good. Not only do I see very similar training type videos whenever I have to do some sort of new training for my job, where it just shows someone dying, usually computer animated, due to some sort of workplace accident. And with the Prevent It campaign, particularly the warehouse accident PSA, I think the gore and shocking aspect of it goes well with its message. As again, this is set in reality. It's not really exaggerating anything. Because I don't know if you know this, but we're very easy to break. Like, so easy. I've killed so iron rods from, 30 feet up going down, that's very likely to impale you and do what happened to this guy. Although you're probably not going to rise again.
We got an accident here!
But the message in the warehouse accident PSA is that every single party involved at the workplace should be 100% responsible when it comes to safety regulations. This includes employees to the head honchos. Everyone has to adhere to the rules written in blood, and if they don't, it could lead to something like a warehouse accident, where an employee may have made a mistake by backing into a shelf, because if I know one thing, forklift certified people, they're reckless. And if I know another thing, suits who make all the money don't care about people like us, so they're definitely going to skimp on safety, almost everywhere, unless they can get sued. Yet sometimes the threat of a lawsuit can still slip through the cracks, and cause an oversight like not, structurally holding up a ton of iron bars that can pierce through a human, like a pincushion, i.e. pincushion. I also just love how the boss is just like looking around like, what the f?
I knew I should have been focused on broken shelf.
Also, if I was the boss, I'd be a bit more scared that this man is still alive. The backlash for this PSA was just people being like, hey, why didn't you tell me this dude was gonna die before I watched it? But again, most people agree that these workplace safety PSAs are necessary to scare people to not die. But let me know what you think. Do you think workplace safety PSAs should show gore? The true reality of what an accident can cause? Or should they be more cushiony and safe? Smoking fetus.
Would you give a cigarette to your unborn child? You do. Every time you smoke while you're pregnant. Pregnant mothers, please, don't smoke.
Call 453-4500 for further information.
This baby's gnarly, dude. This PSA is more humorous than so many others that I've talked about, but at the same time, I just saw it and I had to show it to you. And while it is a humorous PSA, or at least I think it's funny, the message is still very important. However, it's a fetus smoking a doobie. See, that's funny, but the unfunny thing is it's just a PSA about how a mother is unconsensually giving lung cancer and all the bad things that come with smoking to their unborn baby if it's in the oven. Same with dudes. Like, if you nut in a lady and you're doing hardcore drugs, that baby's gonna... Anywho, it's not right to smoke while you're pregnant. That's why a lot of doctors and everyone say not to do that. Same with drugs. And it's definitely an important message because I personally knew someone who smoked and did some worse things while they were pregnant. I don't know if they knew they were pregnant at the time, but I knew that they knew that they were trying to get pregnant. And it's like, hey, if that's the case, maybe quit a lot of the stuff you're doing. And same with the other birth giver, the dude. Why would you risk that for your kid? And then on top of that, you know what's even crazier about that? Is they had the gall to tell me I didn't have my life together. Now, they were right, but at the same time, we're the same age. We're making the same money. I don't have a kid. I'm going off on a rant. But at the same time, when I do have a kid, if I have a kid, because America's economy is just booming right now. But if I do have a kid, I'm gonna cut out all the stuff that I do. I don't want my kid to have a horrible Juul addiction right when it pops out of the womb. Like, oh, Papa, do I smell a mango Juul pod? I don't want that. Anyway, that got really personal. This 1985 PSA comes from the American Cancer Society, and it's directed by David Fincher. You know, the guy who made Fight Club, or Seven, or Gone Girl. He made this PSA. And again, it's not so much on the disturbing side. The puppet that was used for the fetus is definitely pretty disturbing. At least I think so. And I think it plays on that frightening notion well, as the off-putting imagery gets the audience's attention, and it holds it long enough to deliver its subject matter. And to say it without going into a ramble that's probably not gonna make it to the video, When you're pregnant, whatever you're putting in your body goes into the baby's body. And again, that goes for both ladies and dudes. More so on the ladies, because, you know, that's how that works. And to the fellas, it takes like a month for a lot of things to get out of your system. So, just heads up. This PSA aired on TV back in the day. This is the 1980s, so a lot of things slid back then. Granted, this did come with some backlash, as many viewers felt upset about how their TVs just randomly showed them a fetus that they deemed too realistic. Now, I'm not one to judge someone being scared or not.
Coward.
But at the same time, the imagery doesn't really scare or disturb me. But let me know what you think down below. With that being said, this next PSA is very, very heavy. So, heads up now, and I'm going to censor quite a bit of it and cut it off early because it's rough. Morgue. Action for the children. This PSA is so disgusting. The message stops abuse, cool. But it's the thing I always say and complain about, and like hypothetically. Here's gore and shocking material. Here, take that and eat it. And then here in the background, some dude's like, hey, don't do drugs. I'm a bit distracted at the moment with a fucking creep raping a dead lady to be focused on your message that doesn't even feel earned. And when I say it doesn't feel earned, don't get me wrong, I think I understand the PSA pretty well. Like Action for Children, created by Morgue in 2006, is to bring awareness to the life-altering changes that rape victims face, especially when they're faced with such a horrible crime at such a young age, like 8 years old, with the purpose to bring awareness to the sexual abuse that happens to children, all while hoping the viewer does something to stop it. But you notice how that last part is like hope? That's because they focused more on a creepy guy raping a dead woman. You brought awareness to sexual abuse of minors by showing imagery of inhumane acts to a corpse. And then you tied that with necrophilia. First of all, that's a lot of things just getting thrown at you. Like there's a necrophiliac, he's eyeing a dead woman like she's a piece of meat, you know, because he thinks that. And then he starts caressing her. You already either lost a lot of viewers or a lot of viewers are already disturbed and not going to focus on your message. And then you show everything in detail of him unbuttoning and getting ready as well as performing the act. It's quite a bit to take in, and then you want to throw the message at the end. I don't think it works well. But if you think I'm misled and you think that the PSA actually has a good meaning and incorporates the shocking scene with its heavy message, then let me know down below. But my main problem is it just feels like it's comparing two inhumane acts to one another when they shouldn't be compared at all. But hey, good job on the PSA for being shocking and graphic and catching my attention. You got it, but now I'm grossed out. It's just yucky. Alright, we're moving on. If you wonder why I changed outfits, it's definitely not because I realized the video was pretty short and I wanted to add some extra ones, but it's a different day and I didn't want to go back and wear dirty clothes. It's 30 for a reason. Think UK.
If you hit me at 40 miles an hour, there's around an 80% chance I'll die. Hit me at 30 and there's around an 80% chance I'll live.
I find this a bit funny, because the way this UKPIF is phrased, it makes it sound like, hey, hit me at 30 miles per hour, because then I'll be okay. But if you go over that, I'm dead. But 30? Please do so. Obviously, that's not the message, rather cautioning drivers around the fact that most speed limits, signs, and really any rules on the road are there for a reason. They're not just saying, hey, this speed limit is a pretty good idea, stick to that. It's usually because if you hit someone or something, you have a better chance of staying alive if you go with the posted speed limits. Lucky, or It's 30 for a Reason, was released by Think in 2006. Think is a UK campaign created by the Department of Transport in hopes to warn drivers about the consequences of not following road rules. It's 30 for a Reason was rated 12A when it was shown to audiences, and it backs up the idea that rules are written in blood by showing a girl who passed away after getting hit by a car, and rolling it back and showing what would happen if the driver was actually following the posted speed limit. This PSA isn't the scariest out there, nor is it the most disturbing. However, most viewers who were disturbed by it were off-put because of the girl's bluish tint, but her sliding against the pavement was what really did it for me. I just think it's so cringe-inducing thinking about the road rash that's gonna come. And with my next example, you see the same thing, but worse. The reception for this PSA, although a bit controversial because it did air on TV, although I can't find which time slots it went into, a lot of disturbing PSAs are put on late-night TV in hopes to not scare children. Instead, schools will show PSAs that will scare them.
How to survive a school or office shooting.
With that backlash, most people think it's necessary to show the grave consequences of not following the safety rules put in place when it comes to driving, as those grave consequences are reality. If you watch the YouTube video of this PSA today, you'll see a lot of people in the comments saying that they need to bring these type of PSAs back, which I would personally agree with, but I'd love to hear your opinion. Do you think these type of PSAs should make a comeback? Crayon, tack.
At this very moment, the rider is protected. But it only takes 0.03 seconds for the sneaker to burst. 0.6 seconds for the jeans to disintegrate. The hoodie gone in 0.03 seconds. Then, like a human crayon, his flesh is shredded by the coarse bitumen.
Crayon, or also known as human crayon, so if you didn't get it from the first title, bingo bango, mama's got action. It's also known as Protect Your Body. It's a 2022 PSA created by Transport Accident Commission from the Australian government, warning motorcycle riders the dangers of riding without proper gear. And I think doing so perfectly by showing a pretty tame accident. Like our boy over here just slipped, he didn't get hit by a semi-truck like a lot of other PSA show. However, indifferent to that simple accident, it shows the gory reality of what that can do to us. Being little flesh blobs and all. And I mentioned it earlier with It's 30 for a Reason, but the way that the skin just gets peeled off like a cheese grater against the road and it shows you that extensively, it just makes me cringe so badly. And it's a great example of how fragile our bodies truly are, especially on a motorcycle. The PSA has shortened down versions of it. One is 30 seconds and another one is 15 seconds. And they were each cut down to be aired on TV. The only difference is they cut the video right before it shows gore, because you get the message without the skin tearing off. It also cut out the beginning scenes that they didn't seem necessary. Although the full-length PSA is rated MA15, the 30-second one is rated M, and the 15-second one is rated PG-13. Regardless of the censorship, I think all three do a good job at illustrating the PSA's message, which is simple: wear proper safety gear when riding the bike. The PSA was well received by audiences, yet there were many comments under the PSA about how viewers had to look away during the more brutal parts. It aired on TV in Australia, as well as being shown in some driving schools, although I'm not sure if it was just shown in normal school, but that could be possible seeing how so many other PSAs, especially back in the day, were shown during school. I think that's enough yapping for now. If you liked the video, then make sure you leave a like, and if you liked it so much, then think about subscribing. Not only do I have more PSA videos that should be linked here at a playlist somewhere, but I also talk about a lot of horror-oriented content. So if that's your niche, then what's up, playa? Alright, we should end it.
Hey, you ever thought about taking drugs?
NANI?!